Hello, Latin one. Guess what? The moment has arrived. Quintus advenit. Quintus arrives. Now, unlike previous weeks, I'm not providing you a dictionary link or vocabulary to attempt a practice translation. Instead, the story is a little long, and this is our whole lesson for the week. So just follow along with the lesson, taking notes as the translation appears. I will be pointing out certain grammatical things, but notice that the PDF that you have for this week, it includes some places to record some grammatical information. And that information will be on the film. It'll be on the video as we go. So record it and make sure that you've got that at the ready, because everything that is a grammatical point in the lesson will be a question on the Socrative. Now, before we begin this story, let me just give you a little background. In the interest of helping us try to keep somewhat on schedule from previous years, I'm going to be skipping a story that you need to know what happened in it for this story to make a little sense. So just be aware. We are at the house of Salvius and his wife Rufilla. Rufilla is the sister of Metella, as I think I had told you. And Quintus is now arriving in Britannia. It's about 3 years since the volcano erupted. And we don't know anything about what happened with Quintus for the last 3 years. All of that is going to unfold bit by bit in the course of several stories to come. The only thing you have to know is that when Rufilla found out that her nephew Quintus was coming to visit, she wanted to impress him, and so she took a bunch of really nice furniture from the office of Salvius and she put it in the guest bedroom so that when Quintus sees this guest bedroom, he'll be even more impressed. Salvius is not happy about this, and you're going to see at the end of the story, Salvius won't be able to contain himself. He's going to have to make kind of a little side joke about the fact that this stuff from his office is now in the bedroom. Okay, let's begin the story. Quintus ad villam advenit. Quintus arrived at the house. Now, villam, as I'm sure you know by now, is accusative case. There's nowhere to record that fact in your PDF, but just be aware it's going to matter that you can spot the difference of the different cases, because soon we're about to see the ablative version. Salvius villā contendit et eum salutavit. Salvius hurried out of the house and greeted him. This preposition a means out of, and every time you have this preposition, you always have to have the ablative form after a. Now, if this noun had begun with a vowel, then the form is ex. So for instance, if it were city, it would be ex urbe. But with a consonant, it's a. So do record that villā with a long mark is ablative case. Mi Quinte inquit expectatissimus es. Now, expectatus just means expected. Expectatissimus, however, would mean like something like if litus is happy and litissimus is very happy, what would it mean for expectatissimus? My Quintus, he said, you are very expected. Now, that is literally what the Latin says. You are very expected. Think for a moment, what might be just a much more natural English way to say when somebody's like a guest who you've been waiting for, instead of saying you are very expected? Think for a moment. Any ideas? Here's a possibility. We've really been expecting you. Now, again, we've it would be like the first person plural is the subject, and that doesn't exist in the Latin, but feel free when you need to turn Latin into good English. Cubiculum optimum tibi parāvimus. We prepared the best bedroom for you. Tibi can mean to you, but here for you is the best translation. And record in your notes that the verb parāvimus is perfect tense. Salvius Quintum in tablinum duxit, ubi Rufilla sedebat. Salvius led Quintus into the study where Rufilla was sitting. So sadly, again, we have the stereotype that the lady of the house, like Metella, is always just sitting around. Now, duxit is perfect tense. Sedebat is imperfect tense. Record those. Do note, by the way, in plus accusative means into. Rufilla, comma, postquam familiarem salutavit, comma, suaviter risit. Rufilla, after she greeted her relative, sweetly smiled. Cenam modicam tibi paravī inquit. I prepared a modest dinner for you, she said. Think for a moment. I believe there are two things of what Rufilla just said that are not, in fact, true. Think for a moment. What two things about cenam modicam tibi paravī are not actually true? Here's what I think. First of all, it's not a modest dinner. She wants to impress her nephew. So this is in fact a fantastic dinner. She's saying modest so that later when he says, "What do you mean modest? This was amazing." What's the other thing that's actually not true? I'll tell you what's not true. This vowel right here. Paravī. I prepared. She didn't prepare anything. She ordered Volubilis, the cook, to prepare a modest dinner, that is to say, an excellent dinner. Record for yourself that tibi is dative case. Tibi ostreās paravī et garum Pompeianum. I prepared oysters for you and Pompeian fish stew. Now, garum meaning fish stew. Garum was a key food staple for ancient Romans. It was, in fact, the primary way that most Romans consumed any protein whatsoever. Garum was not just like fish stew as you might think about it. It was a fermented fish stew that therefore they could put it in like huge vats and like ship it around the empire, and it was so salty and also fermented that it like would last forever, but it was kind of nasty. Post cenam cubiculum tibi ostendere volo. After dinner, I want to show the bedroom to you. Again, remember, irregular verb volo completes its action with an infinitive. Record the fact that ostendere is an infinitive, and infinitives end in re. So, I want to show the bedroom tibi to you. Salvius, postquam Quintus cenam consumpsit, de urbe Pompeiis quaerebat. Salvius, after Quintus ate dinner, was asking about the city of Pompeii. Now, you've had quaerit meaning to look for, but when you have quaerit with the preposition de, which means about, it really is you're looking for information, and so the more natural contextual translation here is was asking about. I would like you to memorize, please, that de means about. If you look up in a dictionary, the preposition de, the first meaning given is always down from. And that's like only 10% of the time. The other 90% of the time, de means about. And de always takes ablative. So the e of urbe here, that is the ablative ending. So I'd like you to, when you see the word urbe, to know that that is ablative. Ubi in Campania militābam, saepe urbem Pompeios visitabam. When I was a soldier in Campania, often I used to visit the city of Pompeii. So now, the first time you learned ubi, it meant where. Now, we've maybe had this before, but be aware that sometimes ubi means when. So here, when is the best answer. Campania, by the way, Campania is the region of Italy where the city of Pompeii and also Naples are located. So Campania would correspond, for instance, to one of the US states. People know that Campania is that region down further south. Now, I used to. One of the translations that you can sometimes use for the imperfect tense is to used to do something. So rather than say when I was a soldier I was visiting, in this sense I used to visit is the more natural translation. Nonne illa cladēs terribilis erat. So nonne creates a question. So nonne creates a question that expects the answer yes. And so translating this would be, that was a terrible disaster, wasn't it? So when we ask a question like in that format, that was a disaster, wasn't it? It kind of it's leading the answer, oh yeah, it was. But think about how heartless Salvius is being right now. He knows that this young man who's at his dinner table, this young man lost his mother and father in that volcano. And all he's saying is, terrible disaster, huh? Isn't that horrible? Rufilla understands how heartless he was. Rufilla interpellāvit, cur quintum nostrum vexas. Rufilla interrupted. Why do you annoy our Quintus? Now, we have a good SAT word, by the way, from the Latin word interpellāvit, to interrupt. We have the word interpellation, and interpellation is something that, if you were reading a book and they threw in this little aside that somebody thought needed to be there, but it really kind of interrupted the flow of the story, that's called an interpellation. Non decorum est. Difficile est quinto tantam cladem commemorare. So remember, people, this is the reason we learned this construction last week. Non decorum est. It is not proper. And then, difficile est quinto. Remember, we worked on this last week. We have the adjective followed by est. It is difficult. And the third word is going to be dative. So the third word is the one for whom it is difficult. And then the sentence will move to an infinitive, the thing that it is difficult for this one to do. So in this case, it is difficult for Quintus to remember, commemorare, so great a disaster, tantam cladem. And learn for your grammatical knowledge, Quinto here is dative, commemorare is an infinitive. Rufilla ad Quintum se convertit. Rufilla turned to Quintus. Now, I've got the word herself in parentheses. Herself is the word se here. So it's in the Latin, but here's the thing. The verb convertit means to turn something. So like if you took your pencil right now and you were like turning it in circles, that's what convertit means. It means to turn something. So if you want to use it to turn yourself, in Latin, you have to actually say self. So Rufilla turned herself to Quintus. But notice in English, we don't need to say self. You can just say like, I turned to my friend, okay? Or here, Rufilla turned to Quintus. So just be aware, what Latin requires grammatically, the word say, your English translation does not necessarily require. Fortassemi Quinte fessus es. I would remind you always again, the word es means you are. Maybe, my Quintus, you are tired. Cubiculum tibi paravī. I prepared a bedroom for you. And again, this is partly true. I mean, she ordered a bunch of slaves to go and get some really nice stuff from Salvius's office and put it in the guest bedroom so that it looks even more impressive. But let's be honest, she did not lift any of that stuff and carry it to the bedroom. Slaves did that stuff. Cubiculum non est ornatum. The bedroom is not ornate, decorated. Now here again, she's lying. She went to great efforts to make sure that it was ornatum. She wants, when Quintus sees this bedroom, to say, well, what did you mean non est ornatum? Est ornatum. In eo sunt armarium modicum et candelabrum parvum. In it are a modest dresser and a small candlestick. And again, people, you kind of get the drift by now. This is not a modest dresser. This is not a small candlestick. She is trying to impress her nephew. Memorize that the word eo is ablative. And here, in eo means in it. We have in English the word armoire, which means like a type of a dresser. Armario is the Spanish word for a dresser. Salvius iratus nihil dixit. Salvius, angry, said nothing. Now the reason he's angry is he knows that those things were taken from his study, and he knows also that they're not modest and small. They're really nice things, and so he's like just biting his tongue because he knows that his wife Rufilla is trying to impress her nephew. Quintus, postquam cubiculum vidit, exclamavit. Quintus, after he saw the bedroom, exclaimed, quam elegans est cubiculum. Wild guess on elegans. That's right. How elegant is the bedroom? Ego nihil elegantius vidi. So if elegans means elegant, elegantius means more elegant. So the literal translation, I have seen nothing more elegant. How might we turn that into more natural English? Instead of I have seen nothing more elegant, what might you say? I have never seen anything more elegant might be another good English translation. Consentio inquit Salvius, cubiculum tuum elegantius est quam tablinum meum. I agree, said Salvius. Your bedroom is more elegant than my study. Get it? Because he knows that like that stuff came from his study, and he just has to finally say something about all this.